Gino Jennings is an artist and choir director who leads the Truth of God Mass Choir of over 200 members. He's known for his bold style and friendly personality, but he also embodies radical honesty. He's been featured in the I Thrive podcast, and if you're subscribed to me on YouTube, then you might have seen him in some of my fashion videos and how to pose for photos. But today, I'm talking to him on the podcast about how he incorporates honesty in his professional relationships and keeps it real. Also, a disclaimer, I don't call Gino, so I'm going to probably be calling him Ernie throughout the interview, and he'll probably call me Mel, but we're the same people. So, without further delay, let's welcome Ernie to the show. Welcome to the Warrior Rulebook Podcast, where self-development meets real-life reflection. I'm Monique Carmen, and this is your space to pause, process, and to make life a little bit easier. Here we dive into the challenges of personal growth, navigating expectations, and showing up for yourself in a noisy world. Because real transformation isn't about doing more. It's about moving smarter, living lighter, and owning who you are. Through my experiences and the experiences of others, you'll see that change is possible, improvement is tasty, and meaningful connection is transformational. Let's reflect together. All right, welcome to the Warrior Rulebook Podcast, Ernie.
Nick,
How are
what's
you?
going on, little sis?
I'm doing well, big bro. How are you?
I'm coming along. I can't complain. Thank you for having me, though, by the
Of
way.
course, yes. So I really wanted to have you on the podcast today because, in my process of like reflecting on like how far I've come throughout life, I used to kind of be like really scared to like step on toes and like, tell people how I felt because I was always scared of like, oh my gosh, like what's gonna happen next? Like, are they gonna hate me and stuff like that? And I
Right.
like as we got deeper into our friendship, I started noticing that like you really don't put up with stuff. Like you really will tell.
I don't.
Yes. I'd be like, oh, he done tied into somebody. And I was just inspired. I was like, okay, now I can get better at like telling people, how I feel and like navigating different things. So I wanted to just like start off with like the public roles that you've had at H&M, like working in banking, the hotel industry, and now being a choir director like for so long. Like we all kind of have like this type of voice, like when we're on, like, oh hi, like our professional voice. But how do you handle all of those roles?
um, it's just a matter of me just basically still keeping the same aura that I usually do when I'm with my family, friends. Um, how to turn certain things on, how to turn certain things off. And it's just basically just keeping it more of a professional manner, but still keeping my personality, knowing that when I am in a professional arena, whether it's, customer service or sales or banking or hospital, I still keep my personality the way it should, but I know how to turn it on and off. Like certain things, it's a time and place for everything. So I just decided, um, I'll still keep professional, but my personality that will never go away.
Yeah, that's true. I definitely resonate with that as well. So like with someone like being who both of we are, like how we have so much on our plate, like how do you deal with expectations? Because that's something that I've had to learn like for a few years, like being like, oh, I don't want to let this person down, but oh, I also have to help this person with something else. So like how do you navigate that and like try to, still keep other people happy, but also like dealing with your happiness too?
But one thing about me, I'm very big on communication. And I just feel like if you keep the line of communication just to know exactly what is going on with the individual or you or whoever that you're, trying to like, appease in a way.
Yeah.
I think that the line of communication is important because sometimes we fail to be on top of things in life, and then the communication kind of like just goes downhill. So I just think that just letting somebody know, or just, informing them like, okay, I know that I'm supposed to be doing A, B, C, X, Y, and Z, but this is what I gotta deal with this, I gotta deal with that. It's just a line of communication, because you don't want to, just assume the worst, or allow somebody to just assume that you're just a no-show. So it's like, why waste your time? You don't want to give that impression of, oh well, I'm not best at communicating, but I do want to be, a part of this, type of project, or this type of, thing that's going on that we're supposed to be working on. So I think communication is more important. And sometimes we fail to realize that, and sometimes we fail to do so. Um, yeah.
Because sometimes I notice with me, even though like I know everything that's going on in my head, like sometimes it's hard for me to just let everybody else know, because it's like I already assume that they know. They're like, they know this already. It's like, no, they don't. So it's like it's really important to like make sure everybody has all the details. And sometimes that falls through the cracks for me.
You're right, and assuming is like the worst thing to do. I mean, like even with, just being as a choir director, like some people think that because, like, oh, it's Gino, he'll understand. That's not what, like, that type of attitude is just more so like a what like, I don't know what's going on. So I just think that nobody should not assume the worst, because it doesn't even matter how long you know the person, or you know the individual, how friendly you are with the individual. You still need to know what's going on. It can't just not be present, and then later on it's like, oh, he'll understand or she'll understand. That's just not how life works. So I just think that communication should be up to par.
Yeah. And do you think that sometimes people don't communicate because they're more worried about like how you will react in that situation rather than just like ripping the band-aid off and just communicating?
In my experience of leading a big group, I've learned to just observe, be more observant. Um, from the beginning when I started, like, I gave a lot of grace with a lot of people, but, as the time goes on, you see the routine. You see the same thing just going on and on and on, and then it's like you tell yourself, okay, well, should I approach it in this manner, or should I just not deal with it, or just allow them to just, do what they got to do? But I just usually go to a mindset of, okay, now I really got to, like, be passive aggressive in a way, because I am a leader in a big group, not just locally but internationally. So it's you gotta represent in a way where, as a choir director, you have to represent yourself as a leader, and you gotta let individuals know that, I may be, friendly with you at some point when we do see each other, but it's a time and place for that. There's a time to work. It's a time to be friends. It's a time to, you know, work on certain things that needs to get done. It's a time to just sit and chat and have conversations. So I just think that in that aspect of that, people tend to forget that, because they're so used to, oh, this is my bro, or, this is big brother. I mean, I don't have to necessarily tell him what's going on, because when I see him, he'll understand. But it's sometimes just like, why are you not here? You were supposed to be starting at this X amount of time. Why you didn't show up? Certain excuses makes it where, they get too comfortable, and I choose not to show, like, interest or show favoritism. Because if I do show favoritism, then that becomes a problem. And I'd rather for everything just to fall in line in an equal manner. So everything is just equal. You show up late, you probably will get sit down. If you don't show up at all, then you're not going to sing at the event. So
But yeah, I know for me, I definitely could tell the shift as well, just from a personal experience, because I think it was this past convention too. I was like, oh, I'm about to be late. I better hurry up and tell him I'm on my way. Like, I
yeah,
know I go through all these rehearsals and then go miss this one and not be able to say. I was like, no, sir, I will be right there. So
right.
there was like a time that you and the other directors had put, and I was like, oh yeah, I'm almost there. I'm like, I'm on my way. Do not dock me. So I definitely have seen a shift.
Yeah, and then it's crazy. It's crazy that you say that because it's crazy. One of my good friends who's not going to be nameless on this chat, but she knows what I'm talking about. It's funny how you say that because a lot of my close friends who know me, um, they are sometimes they'd be a little shocked, like, Gino, are you really not going to let me sing? I'm like, yes, like you have not shown up to rehearsal, so it doesn't even matter if we're friends or not. Just know that there's still responsibility that you gotta be, responsible for. You gotta show up. You gotta communicate. I'm not just gonna let you just go up there because you know me. Like that's just a lame excuse.
Mm-hmm.
And you gotta really put your best foot forward and separate yourself from being friends with me and knowing that you know, I'm your leader at this point. So I'm technically teaching you what you need to learn certain songs. So you got to separate from that. There's going to be times where when I come to rehearsals, it's not going to be no friendly talking. It's go get right down to the nitty gritty. And if you don't listen, stage left. And sometimes people kind of like take it personal in a way where it's like you don't have to do it that way. You don't have to, be all aggressive in situations like that. But I'm like, as a teacher, some teachers do that to students. And especially when you're in the process of learning and taking your time and effort to actually learn and teach, sometimes you have to be passive aggressive. So it's just a matter of kind of like observing and falling in line. Um, does it happen all the time? No, it doesn't happen all the time. Do you have days where some people are not going to cooperate? Absolutely, but it comes to a point now where I'm at. Like I don't really say much. I just document, and later on we will have a conversation. And if it is what it is, then it is what it is. If you feel some type of way, okay, well, I don't know what to tell you. I'm just not, and I let people know, like, I'm just not going to continually waste time because you're not showing the passion that I'm showing, especially when it comes to music in a music sense. If you say you love music, show me you love music. If you say you love to sing, show me you love to sing. Otherwise, everything is just a waste of time.
Yeah, so I do want to circle back more so like into dealing or navigating like the difficult conversations, but I do want to switch gears really quickly to talk more about like being authentic. Was there ever a time where you felt like you had to be somebody that you weren't? Like maybe you had to like really dull down your personality or, just to accomplish a certain goal without getting like too deep, but maybe like a surface level example in your life.
Well, I'm pretty sure you was there. Well, I had days where I've walked out on rehearsals. I had days where I had to hold meetings and kind of like show a side of me that I don't really show aside from people, especially if I'm very like irritated or if I'm very very disappointed.
Mhm.
Um, and I'm pretty sure you was in one of those meetings and then you actually see what happened. And it's
Yeah.
just little things that I be noticing that most members do not know. I be noticing. I just be catching things and it just happens.
Mhm.
Um, I wouldn't necessarily say I had to dwindle down my personality, but however, because I get the notation of some think that I'm too nice of a guy because that's just my aura when I do approach individuals. Like I'm very giving, I'm very friendly, very loving and whatnot. I don't do no altercation, whatever. I'm not an altercative type of guy. But there will be a time where, I will be fed up. So I'm gonna have to show it in that way where people will have to take me seriously. And since then, and this only happened like one time where I had to had a meeting with the choir before, and it just went. My personality, I wasn't expecting myself to be. I see it in your face because So it was just I wasn't really expecting me to just blow up like that,
Mhm.
because and you deal with so many members and it's like you have to put your foot down,
Mhm.
you know? And I'm learning as the time go by to put my foot down. Sometimes people are not going to like it, but that's fine. I'm not going to lose sleep over it. But however, while I'm in this position, I have a job to do. So it's a time to talk. It's a time to be friendly. It's a time to, laugh. We're doing work right now. So that's what I'm focusing on. And I do get, the understanding that, some people do say that, okay, I'm gonna have to just like chill out or whatever, because they do understand. And there's some that just don't really take it seriously. And I don't try to run behind the individual because I mean we're all grown. I don't run behind grown folks. I mean the choice is yours. It's whether you wanna excuse me, it's whether you wanna do the job or you don't. So I just leave it all up to them. But
Yeah.
I'm still gonna continue to do what I gotta do um to help the choir.
Yeah, that's definitely important, like to be able to classify, okay, this is when I have to be serious and
Mm.
really like tell you, like, you're failing in this area or you're not doing what you're supposed to do. And then there's another time where you can be compassionate because it's like if you're too compassionate, then it's like people will run all over you. So I definitely have experienced that as well.
Yeah, and you already know me like um besides from the interview, like Monique here, like she's been my best friend since we was kids. So she know like you already know how my personality was then up until now. Like it's just certain things that I've experienced to where, I have no choice but to put my foot down. Because again, you're gonna allow people to walk over you because you're too nice, and I choose not to be that person, even though I'm still a nice guy. But I know when to turn it on and off. I know when to be serious. I know when there's a time to just you gotta do it.
Yeah.
Sometimes I can get a little feisty and be like, okay, what's the issue? What's the problem? But it's not out of frustration. It's not out of anger. It's out of love. Um, because I am very passionate about, music, and I'm very passionate about vocals and, choir arrangements. And I just want the best of everybody when it comes to singing and learning how to sing as a choir.
Mhm.
I don't wanna just jump in something and then jump out of it and then jump back in it again. Like that's wishy-washy. I don't like that. And I feel like, and I tell everybody in the choir, if you are committed, show me that you're committed. Otherwise, you do not have to be in this choir. You can continue on doing whatever it is that you had to do in the church. But when it comes to this choir, you're going to have to show commitment. Otherwise, you're gonna have to sit down.
Yeah, that's very true. And even sometimes, like you'll like tease me. Sometimes you're like, "Oh, only 10 showed up," because I'm like, I
Yeah.
can't take it anymore, and I have to like, say something. So, like, I definitely do like agree with that. Like, if you're not getting commitment or something, like it is time to say something because it's kind of like a leak like happening like in a building, and it's like if it gets worse, then like the foundation starts getting messed up too. So
Mhm.
it's like if you don't nip certain things like in the bud, like while it's there, it can get, it can increase into a bigger problem. So I definitely agree with that as well. So the reason I asked that previous question because I want to talk now about like church service because I think that's one of like the easiest examples to kind of see um not necessarily fakeness, but more so people not really embracing how they are. And I could definitely say like in praise service, like, you even tell us like in choir, be like, don't be singing like statues, like come on, get into it.
Yes.
So
Oh my God.
yeah, can you just like talk about like why you think that might be a big thing? Like where, of course, yes, if somebody does sing like a very like high power song, of course people gonna stand up, but maybe during like the slower songs, like or just in general, like why do people not really get into service like they should?
I just this is just me. I've been in church all my life.
Hmm.
And I just feel like we deal with a bunch of crazy stupidity personalities from Monday through Friday, from our 8 to 5s, 9 to 5s, 11 to 7s, 3 to 11s, like whatever shift that everybody has, whether it's morning, evening, or night. I just think that, in the midst of all of that, and we only see each other for Tuesdays, Thursdays, and Sundays,
Hmm.
but it should never be a moment to where everybody's just going to have to come and just, come together and just sit like statues. I never understood that.
Hmm.
Even for me, like me, I'm a church boy. I love to be in worship. The moment it starts and the moment it ends. Like I always want to be in worship, but just to be in an atmosphere where there are some that just sit and don't do nothing, it really it bothers me. And I sometimes I have questions like, okay, what is going on? You know,
Yes.
like you ought to be in service and just get into it. Even our pastor says he hates a dead service.
Hmm.
Even I hate it. And I'm just being honest. I hate it for a passion. So there's some times where, when service starts, there's gonna be times where just everybody's just sitting like,
What was me?
yeah, it's a almost me type of atmosphere. I'm like, come on, like, why won't y'all just, get up, sing a song, testify, show
Hmm.
God what's done. You're not. It's just. I just think that everybody just think that okay, it's routine now, so we have to be here,
Hmm.
and don't know the true definition of being in worship, like just sitting down, not doing nothing. I
Yeah.
don't know.
I can't sit down for too long because it's like I'm like, all right, come on, we got to wake up. And the tambourine definitely does help because I sometimes I come really tired or I might just be feeling down that day. But it's like when a certain song come, I'm like, all right, let's go. Like I'm ready.
Yeah,
I'll be ready
yeah,
before the drummer. I'm like, come on.
yeah. Like even for me as a musician, because I do play the drums at my church,
Mhm.
at the church or whatever. So it was just like even for me as a musician, I am ready for what's expected. I'm ready to receive a blessing, whether it's through a song, through a testimony, through the word, anything. But of course, you just be there, and it's like, all right,
Yeah, it's just like, okay, what is so and so gonna do? Like,
yeah,
oh, they singing that song again for like the 30th time. But it's like, no, like the spirit can still be in this. We can
yeah,
listen to new songs, but we can also hear the old songs too. It's okay. Like the whole
yeah.
point is just to like give it to God. And it's like lately I've definitely been like really feeling songs. And just I think it's like when you have a personal connection to the words, it not only helps you sing better, but you really do feel what you're singing, and that's something that is key in worship. I think that's, it doesn't matter, like, certain musicians, like, they have to go somewhere else, to go to another church service, or they might just be doing their own thing, or they might be working, but it's like you can still have a good service. So I think, sometimes it could be an excuse, like, oh, so and so is not here, so yeah, the song's gonna be awful. um
Exactly. So
yeah.
they mainly rely on, individuals that they are so used to just being on certain instruments, and just if they're not there, it's like, oh, what are we gonna do?
Mhm.
No. There are plenty of times where I have not played and sat. Like, I don't mind a good old hand clap, foot stomp, and blending of the voices in the church.
Yes.
I don't mind that. Trust and
Yes.
believe the spirit can come through that, you know.
Mhm.
But even if some of the musicians are there, I just think that we choose not to just fully be in worship mode like we say we are, because it's just like we're just sitting down like statues, as if like God has never done nothing for us, you know. And it gets a little frustrating sometimes, but I mean, hey, life goes on. People deal with certain things. I get that, but not to come to the church as if you've been dealing with things every day. And now
Mhm.
I'm like, okay, all right, God be praised.
Yes, yes.
I just think that we need to get in the habit of just being in worship more mode more,
Mhm.
not to be too ashamed of actually putting your all in service, because some people say that, oh, I don't want to look a certain way, or I don't want people looking at me a certain way. I'm like, it's not about what people think. You're coming to church to give God worship.
Mhm.
The only thing that you need to worry about is what he looks at when it comes to you, not to anybody else.
Yeah. And like, what do you think? Because I guess like church still kind of is a public experience. Like, even though certain, individuals, we're there for like a collective experience. It's not really like you have to directly engage with people like you should, like, to be like, greetings, sister, greetings, brother, or whatever. But I think that might be like a reason, like how you said, like, people might be worried about how others view them. So, like, what advice do you have, like, for someone that may be more reserved, or they don't know how to be expressive? Like, what can they do to start trying to, I guess, kind of embrace their personality, like in a public sense, like not to show off, but just more so like to connect with God or connect with others?
For me, you can hear me still, right?
Yes. Hmm.
Okay. I just think that my words of advice for those that are just, I wouldn't say really shallow, but kind of like in their own space or in their own cocoon. Honestly, if you have a great personality, show that. It's really not about what other people think. People are going to talk about you regardless
Hmm.
whether you're there or not.
Hmm.
And I feel like opinions don't really matter. What really matters is the fact that, you blossoming to the individual that you're supposed to be matters. Um, and that should not affect you or affect, anything that involves you to just do what you had to do because somebody don't like a certain thing that you do. That should not matter at all. You're gonna have opinions. You're gonna have personal opinions from others because they so used to just having a tradition happening in an organization, and then they expect somebody else to change a few things to make it better. And sometimes some people don't like change, and I just don't. I just think that change is not always bad. If
Right.
it's going to help the church, if it's going to help your job, if it's going to help, anything that you do, you should be willing to allow that and not dwindle that individual because a person don't like the idea of change, because otherwise you're just going to remain stuck.
Yes. Yes. The little version of me definitely loves this right now because I'm like, I needed to hear that like 10 years ago.
Mhm.
But yeah, that's definitely good advice. So now let's talk a little bit more about like the topic of like fakeness. Like, we hear this term, we probably heard it in music before and stuff like that. But like, how do you define when somebody's being fake? Like, what does that mean? What does that look like?
No, I'm just being wishy-washy.
Hmm.
Um, I just think that, I I'll just, I just think that when it comes to just the entitlement of or expecting somebody being fake, it's just a wishy-washy type of situation. I don't it's weird. Like I don't know
Yeah.
why people are like that. And I
Hmm.
just like, like even as like friends, like there's gonna be times where, we're not gonna talk to each other. There's gonna be times where we're gonna be busy. There's gonna be times where, we just don't feel like doing or being around people. But at the same time, if I know that, that your personality stays the same,
Hmm.
I'm fine. I'm good. I don't have to talk to you like 2 or 3 days. I
Right.
just know that that I know that we're not gonna be fake towards each other. We're still gonna show the love. We're still gonna show the commitment that we have in the friendship. But it's just a wishy washy thing to see that some people just laughing. Oh, hey, how are you? And then later on, is like they are stabbing you in the back.
Yeah.
No, it's repetitive and it's weird. It's just weird vibes. And I just don't think that, somebody who and it's not for like young people, old people do the same thing. Older folks do the same thing. And it's just weird. I think it's funny, but it's weird just to see that. Um and I don't know why certain individuals will like want to just feel like it's okay to do that. So,
Yeah.
and I always say, like, be real, be your real authentic self. Like sometimes you're going to say things that most people are not going to like what you say. That's fine, but as long as you're being real and honest about the situation, you're gonna gain the respect that you don't expect from other people. And I'm a witness to that.
Hmm.
And I feel like as the years went on, the things that I've been through, it allowed me to just have a strong backbone to not be fake, whether you either do stab me in the back or whether, people say certain things about me. That's fine. I still would not lose sleep about it. I just know me. I just know to be as honest as I should be, and just keep it that way. But just being fake and just seeing how certain people move, and I rather just separate myself from that and just be around people who are really genuine about the love and the friendship that they have with me. And I'm vice versa. I'm the same way with them, you
Yeah.
know.
Hmm. Yeah, because I think there's a difference between like, you know, being fake and then also trying to navigate like an awkward situation. Like say there is like a falling out with a friend or there was just like a big like rift that happened. It's like y'all know y'all still love each other, but it's like, okay, now how do we interact? How do we repair that? And I think I have experienced that before where it's just like sometimes I don't even know what to do, but it's like it doesn't feel like myself like as I'm trying to like navigate that, and it's like, well, I'm not being fake. I genuinely do love this person. My voice might change though, like I might be a little higher like in my voice, but the love is still there. So yeah, I think there's definitely a difference between that. But like, what do you think?
I think that there is a big difference between that because I've experienced certain people that I've became close with and to this day are still close with who've decided to just go their separate ways um because they chose to. But it's never a time where people can just sit and just ask or check up on the individual and ask like, okay, what's really going on? Like, why are you making this rational decision versus, oh, well, I heard that you left, so I don't want to be a part of anything that involves you. Because technically, if that's the attitude that most people do or give, you never was that individual's friend from the beginning. That's just being honest. So, and as friends, people need to understand that, people go through things. Sometimes they may make rational decisions that will allow you to just have conversations like, what is going on? Why are you making this decision? You know, um, I think I think others just need to just realize what a real friendship is and
Mhm.
not just jump on a bandwagon because somebody said something of what they heard and then they just remove them from their life for good. And then who's to say that if the individual comes back to, you know, coming back and getting their things in order and then they see you, somewhere, oh, you're just gonna just come back and be like, oh, hey, I haven't seen you in a while. How you been? But you're the same one that just, allowed yourself to dismiss yourself from that individual. I mean, you didn't check up on the person, you didn't ask questions, you wasn't showing concernment. So I feel like with that, all that was being shown, you never was a friend,
Mhm.
and some people need to hear that, and I've experienced that moreover where, there are some people that, left and they had reasons, but at the end of the day, I that friendship never went away because those same ones that left came back and
Mhm.
I'm still good friends with them. I don't know about anybody else, but they say the same thing. Like, I never was checked on. I never was asked as to why, I never did have that mindset to just say that, oh, well, you're leaving. Okay, well, I don't want nothing to do with you.
Yeah.
I asked questions. I wanted to know for myself, okay, what's really going on with you?
Mhm.
Something that you're not telling me. Like, what is really going on? And they let me know. So I feel like I've gained a lot of respect from that because, you know, I know what the definition of true friendship is,
Mhm.
and I know what it's like to just feel like, you say you have friends, but then later on it's like, okay, well, why would you do this to me? If I haven't really done nothing to you or nothing bad about you, I've shown a lot of negativity from my experience from others who supposed to be said they were my friend. You
Mhm.
know, you just got to know the in and outs of what's real and what's fake, and just know what a real friend is.
Mhm. Yeah, that's definitely like good, like what you said about like reaching out to the person and knowing for yourself because
Mm,
I mean, I'm sure you and your family have definitely experienced like hearing lies, hearing this, hearing that, and it's just like, sometimes people just come in to disrupt a balance. Like they might see like y'all have like a good, relationship with some other people, and then they try to be like, oh, I'm jealous of that. Let me make up this big lie and like, cause people to get emotional, say things that they don't mean, and then
right.
destroy a friendship and like they're somewhere laughing. So like it's
Mm,
definitely important like to go straight to the person. And I do like appreciate, certain individuals that have even come straight to me. They were like, well, I want to hear from you like what's going on rather than them hearing something down the pipeline
mm,
that probably changed, like that game telephone. Like by the time it gets to the 47th person, it's all types of stuff in that story that doesn't even make sense. So yeah, I like what you said about that. So let's get more into the honesty part. So this is on the opposite side of like fakeness. So recently you took a personality test and you ended up being a commander. And
I still think I need to retake that test because because I don't know if I have I don't know if I have the answers to that because I think you actually helped me take the test or whatever, but
mhm.
yeah.
I feel like it fits though, because like knowing who your dad is and then like seeing like how you act as well, like when you have to be in that leadership role, like do you like identify with some of the things I guess that he's known for? Because like he's very known like to be like no nonsense, like he's gonna tell you straight how it is. Like a lot of people be like, oh yeah, like he says it straight how it is. Like do you feel like there are some aspects of you that are like that you take after him, or was it something that like you kind of found like yourself, you think?
I take a lot of I take a lot of hmm. I do know that I have certain traits that I follow in my dad's footsteps when it comes to not holding a grudge, when it comes to not caring what people think about me,
Mm-hmm.
and getting things done the way it's supposed to get done. Because otherwise, I'll just flip out. You know, it's and I see that, you know, because when I examine my dad in a way where he know how he handles business and stuff, like it does trickle down in the way that I handle, you know, being in a department where I have to lead um not a few members but a lot, to where we're on where you have to learn different personalities, you learn with different, you know, passive aggressive individuals, certain backgrounds of where they came from. And it's honestly, for me personally, like I can handle stuff like that. You know, there's some who comes in just aggressive, tough, and there's some who's just very settled and poised and whatnot. So it's
Mm-hmm.
just a matter of how to operate with that. But I do honestly see certain traits in me when I see my dad do certain things like that, because um I don't hold a grudge for anybody who's done wrong to me. I never did. Um I never I never did care to what people say or how they felt about me, because it's literally water off a duck's back. You
Yeah.
know, I may hear it from somebody that says that, oh well, I heard ABC XYZ. I'm like, okay, I'm not losing sleep, so it doesn't really matter to me.
Mm-hmm.
Um and I'm very and I know and I'm very like, hmm, I'm very eclectic in a sense. I
Mm-hmm.
feel like that's a good word to use. So I just think that musically, I'm very eclectic.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, because I just because I love different genres of music or whatever. But my focus with, you know, the choir and everything else is just a matter of me just having that mindset and like being being a good teacher that I'm supposed to be. And it's a natural gift. Like I didn't, and this is the thing, like it's I didn't go to school for this. It was just
Wow.
it's natural, because I haven't really told nobody this, but
Mm-hmm.
when I was a kid, you know, I've always wanted to become a choir director, because I used to see my uncle do it back in Frankfurt Avenue.
Mm-hmm.
And he was very he was very stern. Like he didn't tolerate no nonsense with anybody who steps in rehearsals. If there was an issue that you had with somebody, he would have told you, okay, well you can handle that outside, but in rehearsal you ain't go be dealing with this. Otherwise, you can go home.
Mm-hmm.
And that I see that for me, especially with my uncle, because I have a trait of my dad, and I also have a trait of my uncle, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
In a way where, you know, I can see both ends and how I handle certain things. And even my aunt would tell me like, oh, you're just like Uncle Ricky.
Wow.
It's like I'm replaying Uncle Ricky all over again, because certain things that he used to say, I do the same thing for the choir. So it's like I'm glad I had these traits because I just refuse to have people walk over me. And and I'm 31 now, so at a young age, I was very attentive in how people feel about me. I was very sensitive in the way people felt about me. But then, the more I got older, I've gotten a stronger backbone of not really caring, you know, and I'm okay with that.
Yeah, yeah, that's definitely amazing. Thanks for sharing that. I didn't know that that story was gonna come out. That's really cool.
Yeah, you're welcome. But I really never really like shared it with anybody because I used to like when I was a kid, I used to, had like wrestlers, those little wrestler things of dolls, whatever. I don't know what they call it.
Action
The
figure.
action figures, yeah. GI Joes.
Yeah.
Um, I used to literally line them up on a dresser, right, and play like gospel music, and
Oh
I
no.
was doing this the whole time. When I was a baby, and I used to have the VHS gospel music on TV, just listening in the background, and I just be thinking that have them positioned in a way where they just look like a choir, and I
Oh.
just be doing this the whole time.
So now you just go from action figures to choir,
Yeah,
or all together. G.I. Joes.
right. But I really never imagined myself, just actually handling a big group like that,
Mhm,
because I started with a youth choir who only seated about like what, 10, 15, 20
mhm.
versus two or three, 400 people.
Yeah.
So I'm happy where I'm at and I enjoy it. I enjoy the ride. It can get a little shaky sometimes, but I enjoy it.
Yeah, that's definitely good, like to see like, kind of like the role figures or like, different parts that you take like from your uncle and your dad, like to be able to lead a mass because your dad leads a mass as well. So yeah, and I definitely do resonate with like what you were saying about like you and your dad's approach to like handling things because I also get that from my dad as well. So I guess, it's a big dad theme going on around here today.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, like I used to watch, I still do. I still watch how like my dad processes his feelings and like, you know, just about, navigating. I know I've been saying navigating the whole time, but it's just a great word to use like to deal with issues. And he definitely did teach me like how to go toe to toe, like intellectually. It's not about using your hands or, just getting crazy. Like you can still like argue your point like without um necessarily like, try to take somebody out is basically what I'm trying to say. Um
Hmm.
but yeah, like still going on with the theme of honesty, like when it comes to kind of being radical, sometimes people do get hurt. And I know sometimes you like you did mention more so about like, I'm not losing sleep over it, but like was there ever a time where you were like, whoa, like I was a little too honest, like how did that go, and did you like ever feel like, ooh, maybe I need to tone it down a little bit?
Um, I think it's like I said, it's more like for me, it's a balance
Yeah.
where I mean, it's okay to be honest, but in a way where it becomes like you're too honest. Some people don't really take it well because now it's like, are you picking on me? Like, do you have an issue with me for being too honest?
Mm-hmm.
And it's not always like that, it's just it could be based on observation, it could be based on things that you've picked up to allow you to say the things that you want to address to that individual just to get a better understanding.
Yeah.
um I do remember I do remember a time where I did became too honest,
Mm-hmm.
and I've hurt the individual's feelings, but it wasn't intentional. It
Right.
was a matter of me being frustrated of seeing a cycle of just seeing a cycle of, you know, just certain habits that should not be, and I've it came to a point where, in my personal feelings, like I had no choice but to be brutally honest. And sometimes being brutally honest
Mhm.
can lead to, feelings being hurt, or, some people are just like, oh, I didn't know you felt that way, but I'm letting you know now, like, but it's not always in a way where it it's not meant to hurt your feelings. It's just certain things that are just, they see, or things that you do is like, so I think that sometimes it is okay to be brutally honest sometimes, but it's just how you handle the situation and how you approach situation. You can still be brutally honest, but sometimes tones do matter as well.
Mhm.
And sometimes, being the aggressor sometimes matter as well. If
Mhm.
you don't if you don't try to be, rude about it, it's sometimes it's a way to handle it, but I honestly don't think that being brutally honest can, cause a problem, but it's just a way you just how you, go and represent it.
Yeah, it sounds like it's more so about like addressing like an issue like when it starts affecting you. And I
Hmm.
like sometimes like for me, I won't address something right away because I'm like, okay, well maybe, you know, their perspective might be different. Like, just for example, a really, really dumb, like low example is like, say so and so did not text me back right away. And I'm like, I'm looking for information. And it looks like they just read the message where, they could have opened the message and then they got into a car accident. So of course they can't respond to me right away. But it's like, kind of letting things like kind of harbor. But I think it's more so like if like an issue just kind of gets bigger, then I usually will react and say something. But I don't always react like right at the first.
Right.
Um, so I guess it's more so like if the issue becomes kind of, I don't want to say unbearable, but you really like start feeling it, and then it's like, okay, it's time to say something. Not necessarily like I observed this and I'm just gonna tell you about yourself, and it has nothing to do with me. Like, is that kind of where you're kind of
Yeah.
saying?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. That makes sense. Let me just make sure I didn't miss anything else. Oh, that's a good question there that I have. So, how do you handle like the truth, would you say? That's kind of broad, but more so like how do you deal with like either telling the truth or receiving the truth? I don't, and when I say the truth, I don't necessarily mean like the truth of God, but just more so like that, sometimes people don't want to be told the truth, and I feel like you kind of brushed up on this a little bit, but do you have like anything else that you want to add about that, like that topic where it's like, oh, you can't handle the truth?
um I feel like everybody should be obligated to just take the punches as when the truth comes, and they come in different in different genres, whether it's, life, spiritual, um, natural. It's just a matter of, showing and being truthful to that individual, because again, you will gain the respect that you need and want, especially if you are considered a friend to the person. So why not tell the truth? Why not sit and just have the raw, real conversations that are not, comfortable? Um, and I think that, there could be times where you're going to have conversations that are not comfortable, but at some point you're going to have to hear them because it will help you in the long run. Otherwise, you're just going to be stuck, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And I just do believe that, and I'm a very I'm a strong advocate in that, and I'm just speaking for me. There's times where people tell me the truth about me, and sometimes I hear it. It could be bothersome sometimes just to even hear that person say it, but
Yeah.
it's honest. Like it's a life lesson for me, and to just examine myself on the things that I need to work on, and the things that the things that I didn't really like um didn't see for myself or didn't observe. So just having somebody being truthful and not really showing the way of thinking that they're picking on you, because that's not what it really is.
Mm.
It's just a friend concerning a friend, you know?
Yeah.
I think that sometimes we don't want to hear the truth, or we don't want to listen to what the truth is, but otherwise it is also beneficial for you, because if it does happen, then it's going to be a situation where it's like, oh, he or she just told me this, why did I not listen, you know? And I think that it's good to have friends like that who can be truthful, who can be honest. um and it's rare. You don't really find people like that no more. You really don't.
Yeah, especially in this climate, like where it's like it is easy to offend people. It is easy, like, for things to happen, and us like being spiritual, like we know, how the devil acts and things like that. That he just comes to enhance things. So yeah, you just have to push forward, and I do agree with like gaining respect and stuff like that. So when it comes to like all this like truth sharing and being honest and stuff, like what about like when you do decide to like get very brave and you say like, okay, this is what the problem is, blah 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 blah, and like the person just kind of denies it, and it kind of almost feels like a stalemate, excuse me. So it's like where it's like, okay, I said my truth, the other person said their truth, and nothing happens. Is it like, okay, well, I said what I said and we're just gonna take a break? Like I feel like that has happened to me a lot in my experience. It's just like, well, I don't know what else to say. Like I already said what I said.
I mean, and there's nothing else you can say. I mean, if the individual choose the back road, okay, let the individual choose the back road. But if whatever you said come to pass to that individual, the only person that needs to blame is themselves. You
Hmm.
did your part. And
Yeah.
I feel like, sometimes when we do speak the truth about how to handle certain situations, it's like there are some who just won't accept it and just think that they're right. But then
Hmm.
when the situation really happens, they're actually wrong.
Yeah.
Well, of course, the embarrassment will come, and they don't really want to say anything about it. But I mean, I'm not gonna just, and this is just me. If I spoke truth about there's certain things that you're doing, and it's just like you don't want to listen to me, I'm not gonna constantly just go behind you and just keep repeating myself. If you're not gonna listen, you're not gonna listen. If you want to learn the hard way, that's fine. But don't come crying to me when you get into a situation, because you're not gonna hear "I told you so" from me.
Hmm. That's true.
You're not gonna hear "I told you so" from me. So with that, it's just, I'm gonna just let you examine what has transpired, and then when you're ready to talk, you can call me. You have my number. You have my email. You can call me when the time is right. But otherwise, I just rather not go behind the individual if you're going to be brutally honest. If they're going to deny it, okay, you did your part. If they're
Yeah.
not going to listen, so be it. But if whatever happens that they warned them to, not do, and if it does happen, and it's they have nobody to blame themselves, because you didn't want to listen.
Yeah. Yeah. That's very true. Well, thank you so much for being here, friend.
Thank you. I do appreciate this, Monique.
Of course. Yeah. So if y'all want to connect with Ernie, I'm not sure how often he is on YouTube, but like there you can put your comments in the comment section and I'll try to let him know like, hey, you should respond to so and so. But yeah, thanks for being here and I'll see you in another episode. Talk to you later, friend.
All right, thank you.
This just in, podcast host Moni Carmen, Oh, that's me. Thanks you for tuning in and invites you to make reflection a daily practice. For more insights and conversations, be sure to join us inside the Warrior Rulebook Podcast Insiders group on Facebook, and be sure to subscribe to the show wherever you get your podcasts. Signing off.